Harai goshi. In Harai goshi, you pull your opponent close and throw with your hip and legs in a sweeping motion. The nage no kata form is created by pulling your opponent close by putting a hand under his arm and raising him to destroy his balance. In randori, you seldom put your hand in as shown here. Here the technique is performed by following the motion of your opponent who withdraws. Another chance for using Harai goshi presents itself when you pull your opponent out sideways as shown here. The body movement when executing Harai goshi varies, as when you crisscross and change the position of your feet. For a moment, your opponent mistakes it for a right-hander technique. Then you turn and go into the motion for Harai goshi. Let's take a look at various forms of Harai goshi from tournament films. This is Harai goshi as performed by Castro of the United States. An All-Japan Judo Championship, Harai goshi, performed by Nobutoshi Hikage. The throw is made in a winding motion the moment his opponent comes up close and tries to defend himself by swinging his right foot over. Harai goshi by Yoshimi Masaki at an All-Japan Judo Championship. Hane goshi. Hane goshi is a technique of throwing your opponent by bouncing him up using the movement of your hip and foot. Hane goshi executed in pursuit. It's made the moment your opponent retreats and brings his left foot down. The leg to be used in bouncing your opponent up should be bent a little. You bounce him up around the lower part of his knee. The technique may be used after guiding your opponent sideways. This is Hane goshi, where you jump in to execute the technique. Pull your opponent downwards, and when he straightens himself up in reaction, jump in to execute this technique. Let's look at the difference between Hane goshi and Harai goshi. In Hane goshi, you bounce your opponent up with your leg bent. In Harai goshi, your leg is straight as you bounce your opponent up. Uchimata looks similar to Hane goshi, except you place your leg in between your opponent's legs and bounce him up. Utsuri goshi. Utsuri goshi is a kind of technique used when your opponent attacks with koshiwaza, to raise him up and throw him on your hips. This is an Utsuri goshi technique which originates from the opponent's Hane goshi. This is Utsuri goshi, which started out as an uchimata by the opponent. You completely raise your opponent up by the waist and opening outwards, throw after moving him over on your hips. It can also be executed after your opponent attacks with an o sotogari. In this case, you draw your foot a moment before he executes his o sotogari. The second World Cup tournament. Lesniak of the Soviet Union wins with Utsuri goshi. Ushiro goshi. This is the throw to use when your opponent attacks with koshiwaza. You lift your opponent up and throw him down in front of you. This Ushiro goshi has developed from the opponent's Hane goshi. Ushiro goshi executed just as your opponent tries to defend himself by curling his feet around yours. When changing into Ushiro goshi, your opponent may try defending himself by attacking your foot, as in ouchigari. You then lift up the foot that's been attacked, hoist him up, then throw him down. This is in case your opponent defends himself using something like kouchigari. If your opponent defends himself by using kouchigari from inside, lift your foot that's been attacked, hoist him up, and throw him down. When your opponent attacks with o sotogari, push his waist up with your leg as you throw him down. Ushiro goshi resulting from your opponent's Hane goshi. You can also execute the technique like this without holding your opponent's hip, but simply lifting it up by using your left foot. These different follow-on techniques are all called Ushiro goshi. Daki. When on the floor, you grasp your opponent's belt to make him bend over. Then, with your arms crossed, grip both lapels to bring him near. Then, standing up on both legs, raise him up at once deftly to the shoulder level. This technique is dangerous if your opponent is dropped after being raised up, so that the effect of the throw was recognized only in 1926. In those days, an ippon was declared when you succeeded in raising your opponent up to the shoulder-high level at one go. But today, the match is suspended with the call of mate. The effect of the technique is not recognized.